Hi, I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be summarizing The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series, which is 14 books long, and I don't want to forget details or put the series down and then not know where to pick up and have to start at the beginning again, so this is just kind of a simple, concise summary of events for future reference. So the book opens with Lews Therin, also called the Kinslayer and the Dragon, looking around at all the people he's just killed under the influence of dark magic, when Ilan Morin Tedronai, Betrayer of Hope, shows up and mocks him, and Lews Therin turns into a mountain. And then we jump forward a couple thousand years. The actual story starts at the Two Rivers, or Emond's Field, where they're getting ready for the Feast of Beltane, and we meet Rand al'Thor and his father Tam al'Thor as they're coming into town and getting ready for the feast. They see that there are a couple of strange visitors in town, including Moraine, who turns out to be an Aes Sedai, and Lan, who is her warder, as well as Padan Fain, who is a peddler, and Tom Merrilin, who is a gleeman. Rand and Tam go home for the night to protect their farm, and they are attacked by Trollocs. Tam pulls out a special heron-marked sword to fight them off, and Rand runs and hides. Tam manages to fend them off, but he is injured. So Rand takes the heron-marked sword and drags Tam into town, where hopefully the wisdom Nynaeve can heal him. Nynaeve says there's nothing that she can do, but Moraine does manage to heal Tam. She also tells Rand that he and two of his friends, Matrim Coffin and Perrin Ibarra, are being hunted by the Trollocs. They're the reason the Trollocs came to attack them, and they need to get out of town. The gleeman, Tom Merrilin, decides to come with them, and so does Egwene, the girl that Rand has a crush on. While Rand was dragging Tam into town, Tam was kind of incoherent and having fever dreams, and he talked about finding Rand and adopting him as his own son. Rand wants to know about this, but doesn't actually ask his father once he's coherent. So the group of travelers sets out, with Egwene riding Rand's horse Bella, and before they leave, Moraine tells a long story where we learn that the people of the Two Rivers were originally called the Manatharin, and they were kind of significant in history. The travelers are chased to a place called Tarn Ferry by Trollocs and Myrddraal. So the hierarchy goes that there are Trollocs, who are fairly mindless and stupid. Then there are Myrddraal, who are like Trollocs who have been promoted and have extra powers, but also aren't that smart. Then there are the Forsaken, who have no souls. I don't think anyone in this list has souls, but they're like especially soulless. And then there is the Dark One, who is like the head of evil forces. And if you want to fly around, then you fly on a drag car, which is like an evil flying thing that all these evil people get to ride on when they're hunting you. So our group of travelers just barely manages to get across the river at Tarn Ferry, and Moraine causes a whirlpool and sinks the barge when they're done. Egwene says that she wants to learn to be an Aes Sedai, and so she starts to train and learn magic with Moraine on their journey. They travel for quite a while until they get to the city of Baerlon, which is the first city that all the people from the Two Rivers have ever seen, and it seems huge to them. They stay there for a day and kind of wander around. While they're there, they meet Min, who is kind of a fortune teller, and she says that they're all important to some great pattern, and also that Rand and Egwene are not meant to be together. Nynaeve the Wisdom tracks them to Baerlon and decides to start traveling with them, and while they're in Baerlon, Rand does some fairly stupid things. The group leaves on the Caemlyn Road that goes toward Caemlyn, because that's their ultimate destination, and they're being chased and don't know how to get away, so they decide to stop at Shadar Logoth, which is a place that even Trollocs fear to go. They stay there for a night, and the boys, lovely intelligent people that they are, decide to go exploring the place that the Trollocs are afraid of. They meet a man named Mordeth, who is a creepy, evil person from long ago, and he shows them a treasure room, and when Moraine asks them if he gave them anything, the boys all say no. The Trollocs come into the city even though they're afraid of it, and the group starts to run away. While they're running away, they're separated by Mashadar, which is an evil, soul-eating mist. And so the group breaks up and they're all trying to run for the river, because Trollocs and Fades, which is another word for Myrddraal, are afraid of running water or deep water or something like that. So they all manage to get away, and the way it works out is that Nynaeve, Moraine, and Lan are traveling together. Tom, Rand, and Mat are traveling together, and they actually find their way onto a boat, and so they're just sailing downriver. And then Perrin and Egwene are traveling together. And Moraine, at the beginning of the story, had given each of the three boys some coins that she could use to track them, but she didn't tell the boys that these coins would track them. So Perrin still has his, and she knows where he is, but Mat and Rand use used their coins to buy passage on the ship, so Moraine knows where they were when they gave the coins away, but she doesn't know anything after that, and she decides to follow them. Perrin and Egwene meet up with a man called Elias, who travels with a pack of wolves and can speak to wolves, and it turns out that Perrin can speak to the wolves too, and as they're traveling, he starts to get more and more familiar with the wolves, and his eyes start to glow yellow. Eventually, they run into the traveling people, also called the Tinkers, or the Tuatha'an, and they travel with them for a while, and Egwene flirts with one of the cute boys there. In the meantime, Rand, Mat, and Tom make it to Whitebridge, which is the town they were kind of going to meet at before they go to Kahlan. Perrin and Egwene are avoiding Whitebridge and just heading straight for Kahlan. But Rand, Mat, and Tom make it there, and a Fade finds them, and Tom has already disguised himself as not a gleeman, so he takes off his gleeman's coat and his flute and harp and all the tools of the gleeman that he was training the boys in, and gives those things to them, and then he holds off the Fade while they run away, and they're pretty sure that he is killed by the Fade. Meanwhile, Perrin, Egwene, and Elias are being chased by evil ravens who are spies for the Dark One, and they're trying to get to a steading, which is a place of safety that the Ogier made. And while they're running, because Perrin can speak to the wolves, he knows how close the birds are, and if the birds catch them, they'll peck them to death in slow, agonized torture, and Perrin decides that he will use his axe and kill Egwene if that is about to happen. And then they make it to the steading in time, and Perrin thinks about that and is very unhappy that he was willing to kill his friend. Once they get to the steading, they think they're safe, but the Children of the Light, which are like a magic-hating cult who tends to kill first and ask questions later, show up, and they take Perrin and Egwene hostage, and the wolves try to help them, and they kill a wolf, so Perrin lashes out and kills a couple of the Children of the Light, and so Perrin is definitely doomed, and Egwene is probably doomed. Meanwhile, Rand and Mat have been trying to make their way to Caemlyn. They've been doing some of the gleeman tricks that Tom taught them to pay for an inn, and they have lots of problems. Dark friends keep finding them. But basically, they can hide pretty well in the crowd because lots of people are going to see the false dragon Logain, who has been captured and is going to be in Caemlyn, so it's easy for them to just kind of blend in and say they're going to get there too. So after many trials and tribulations, they manage to make it to Caemlyn, and they go to an inn that Tom Marilyn gave them the name of, and the innkeeper apparently knows Tom very well because he's happy to have them and he invites them to stay, and they just spend their time there. Mat sulks up in the room being miserable and paranoid because of his evil dagger, and Rand spends his time hanging out in the awesome library and talking to the Ogier Loyal, who is young and hasty for an Ogier, but still very slow and deliberate for the rest of us, and is a great conversationalist. And during this time, Loyal tells Rand that he is Ta'veren, which means that, like, the patterns of fate weave themselves around him, and he is very important. And we later learn that his friends are too. A lot of people in this book are Ta'veren. Meanwhile, Nynaeve, Rand, and Moraine sneak into the camp of the Children of the Light and rescue Egwene and Perrin gets another psychic wolf message, and he learns that the wolf pack is still there and Elias is alright, and the wolf pack kind of says goodbye to him and they hope they'll see him in the future. So that group all starts to make their way to Caemlyn, where Rand is wanting to go see Logain the false dragon, and so he goes out and he climbs up on this wall to try to get a better look, and he falls inside this garden, and inside the garden he meets Elaine and Gawain, who are the children of the Queen of Caemlyn, and so he's immediately arrested because he's trespassing in the Queen's garden and talking to her children, and he has this whole dramatic audience in front of Queen Morgase and Elida, the Aes Sedai who works with her and is from a different Aja than Moraine is, but he's eventually released. And Elaine says it's partly because she thinks he's handsome. So Rand goes back to the inn, and that is where Moraine and the whole party finds him. So everyone is all together again. Moraine goes up to look at Mat, and he is in terrible shape because of the cursed dagger he took back in Shadar Logoth. It's made him super paranoid, and she manages to kind of patch him up so he's back to normal. But she can't actually take the dagger away or it will kill him. And if she doesn't do anything, eventually the darkness will seep back in. So he needs to get to Ta'veren, where all the Aes Sedai live, so that a group of them can actually, really heal him and take the dagger away. While everyone is chatting, they compare all their notes and stuff, and they manage to piece together that the Dark One is planning to target the Eye of the World and use that to do his evil things. And so they decide that Loyal should take them through a way gate so that they can get to Faldara really fast. And so Loyal leads them out in the middle of the night, and they go into this little cellar thing, and they go through the ways, which is this dark place that's kind of an equivalent of Moria or something. And they feel like something's following them, and then at the very end, the Mashin Shin, or the soul-eating wind, is chasing them, because this world has soul-eating wind as well as soul-eating mist, and they just barely manage to escape. They come to the town of Faldara, which is actually really accepting. They're happy to meet Aes Sedai and happy to meet Ogier, which is a change for this world. And Faldara is getting ready for a battle, and they try to convince this group of travelers to come with them, because like Moraine would be a huge asset, and Lan would be a huge asset, and they could help in the battle a lot. And they convince him that their battle is more important, so they say, okay, we'll go off and fight our battle, and we'll know it'll just be like a diversion, and you guys go do your thing and save the world. In the meantime, the peddler Padan Fain is captured trying to get into the city, and it turns out he is an evil dark friend who's been following them, and he was the reason that the Trollocs came to the Two Rivers in the first place, and he is captured and interrogated. So our group of travelers decides to set out through the Blight, which is like this evil, I don't know, area where everything is dying, so that they can get to the Green Man, who is like this special person who guards the Eye of the World, and I guess the Eye of the World moves, and you just have to have the right intention to find him. So they set out in search of him. That night, when they stop to make camp, Nynaeve asks Lan if he would consider marrying her. And he says that she is going to train to be an Aes Sedai, and Aes Sedai don't usually marry because they're so strong-willed it'd be hard to live a married life that way. And she says, I can do it, I don't care. And he says, well, I'm a warder and I'm probably going to die and I don't want to leave you widowed, so no, but I'm sorry. The next day, they begin traveling again, and they find the Green Man, and he's like in this isolated pocket of healthy nature that like all the blight is around it, and it's just this little bit of healthiness. And there's like a tree of life around it, and there's the Eye of the World. They need to get to the Eye of the World to try to save it. But then some of the Forsaken manage to find them, and the Forsaken are supposed to be imprisoned just like the Dark One is. But they manage to get there, and they get out, and they attack them, and the Green Man kind of dies and is turned into a tree. And then they all start running for the Eye of the World, and Rand fights the Forsaken, and then he somehow like teleports over to the battle that all the people of Faldara are fighting, and he manages to wipe out most of the evil troops so that the people of Faldara can easily defeat them. And then he goes and confronts Ba'alzamon, the Dark One. And Ba'alzamon has been popping up in dreams this whole time and kind of taunting the boys. And he's trying to figure out which one of the boys was the chosen one, and I guess now we know. And Rand fights him, and he manages to summon like a sword of light, and he cuts Ba'alzamon's evil dark umbilical cord and kind of defeats his attempt to take over the Eye of the World. And he thinks that he's killed him, but when he wakes up, Moraine tells him he hasn't. He's just kind of set Ba'alzamon back a little bit. And so the book concludes with most of the group deciding to go on to Tar Valon, where the Aes Sedai live, so that they can all train or be healed or do the different things they have to do. Perrin is the only one who doesn't really need to go, but I think he decides to just kind of tag along because that's where all his friends are going. But Rand decides he wants to go far away. He's never going to use the One Power again, but he doesn't know if he actually has the ability to make that choice. He didn't intentionally use it the first time, and he's afraid he'll use it again, but he wants to go far away where people can't hurt him. And Moraine is eavesdropping on this conversation, and she believes that he is the actual Dragon Reborn, who is prophesized to come and either save the world or destroy it. And there have been lots of false dragons, but she believes Rand is the actual Dragon Reborn. And that is the end of the book.